Hey guys, Spirit of the Law here. I'm finally getting around to doing some proper testing on the new patch, and where better to start than with the Japanese, and even better, their samurai. It's had a couple of recent changes, with a reduction in their cost by 5 food, as well as a new ability, giving them quote additional movement speed with +1 attack when charging an enemy unit. That sounds like it could either be very impactful or not at all, depending on the details, and whether +1 attack means going from 10 to 11 damage on the first strike, or if they mean an entire second attack, meaning they hit twice after charging. So let's put it to the test and see how significant this all is for the samurai. To start with the speed boost, it has no effect against buildings at all, but when your samurai come within 6 tiles of a target, they jump up in speed by 25%, which is actually a pretty significant boost from a decent range. I could see when chasing down a crossbowman or skirmisher, for example, having every samurai basically guaranteed to land at least one hit while the enemy runs away is situationally helpful. As for their attack, the first one does not do double damage unfortunately, and it really is just a flat +1 attack one time. They then take 30 seconds to recharge it, meaning the attack boost is basically irrelevant in most matchups. That said, I do appreciate the samurai attacks are visually synced up with the damage, and for that matter, even Japanese halberdiers clearly attack faster than others now. There's a slightly awkward pause between attacks, and halberdiers are actually a bit of a slower attacking unit in general, which I feel is now highlighted, but gives some great feedback to the player of what's actually happening with the unit as of the recent patch. On another small tangent, several infantry now swap between 2 different attack animations. Samurai are not one of those, but if you watch the other 3 units here for a little while, you'll notice they have an overhand attack as well as a backhand or jabbing variation that they'll mix in randomly. Overall though, the charge mechanic for samurai is a bit underwhelming, and +1 damage every 30 seconds should not be a consideration when choosing this unit. Instead, I actually think the bigger deal is the reduced cost. It's only dropping by 5 food, but remember, with supplies being partly but not fully built into the swordsman line, those are now 5 food more than they used to be. And whereas the samurai cost 15 more resources than the swordsman line in the past, it's now only 5 resources more each, admittedly with a higher gold cost. Still, that makes the samurai feel more competitive and value-oriented than it was before. Just to put their previous cost efficiency into perspective, even before the patch with supplies in the game and the higher samurai cost, they still beat Japanese longswords with balanced resources 13 against 16. To balance in total resources now though, we have to take away 1 longsword and add in 1 more samurai. And whether we're talking about castle or imperial age, as long as we aren't hung up on gold in particular, samurai are packing a lot more punch for similar total resources. As a general benchmark, against fully upgraded Castle Age Knights, a balanced resource army of Japanese longswords win with typically 20 to 30% of their HP left over. And remember, with generic civs, this is actually a losing fight, saved by the Japanese faster attack bonus. Doing a similar comparison but with Japanese samurai leaves them with 40 to 50% of their HP left over in contrast. So whether we're looking at matching up against infantry, knights, or even crossbows with the samurai's 10 extra HP, it's starting to feel like the samurai is the better version of Japanese longswords from both a value and population efficiency argument. The charge mechanic doesn't really have to factor into that conversation, and feels more like a distraction from what's actually going on, which is the samurai becoming significantly more food efficient than the longsword and champion. But while we're looking at the unit and its new balance, we of course have to check in on a few of its quirkier interactions. Notably, they now lose one-on-one against the improved Elite Jaguar Warrior, higher HP Elite Teutonic Knight, and Elite Cataphracts. However, if we consider the resources lost in all cases here during the exchange, it's clear Elite Samurai are cost-efficient against Jaguars and Teutons, while trading nearly equal with Cataphracts, at least when trample damage isn't coming into play. The obvious question though is whether they were the right unit for the charge mechanic at all, and if a speed boost and upfront damage would be better applied to cavalry, either across the board or to some select heavy cavalry in particular. It probably makes more sense than samurai, though we have a lot of new mechanics already floating around with the new civs admittedly, so I say we hold off on that idea, but it's an interesting proof of concept. That'll do it for this one though, and while the charge mechanic was a bit underwhelming, samurai themselves are still in a good spot, and coming out in arguably a better position post-patch. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.